My 18th birthday, and my family gathered to tell me, "You're adopted, and your real parents didn't want you either. Nobody does." Then Mom laughed. "We only kept you for the monthly checks. Those end today, so you're homeless now." I said, "You'll regret this." My sister added, "What are you gonna do, cry?" So I smiled and left. That was 5 years ago. I'd been preparing for years. This morning, now they're imploding, begging, writing, and calling nonstop, "Justin, son, please." So I don't really post on here, but I've been reading a lot of these storytime things lately, and honestly, I never thought I'd have something to share. That was this nuts. I'm not even sure if this is the right place, but whatever. I just need to get this out. I'm not looking for advice or sympathy, just, I don't know, maybe someone will get it. If you think I'm making this up, I get it. I wouldn't believe it either if it didn't happen to me. Anyway, I'm Justin. I'm 23 now, but this all started on my 18th birthday. I guess I should start with the week before, because that's when things started to feel off. Like my mom, Kristen, kept making these weird comments about how things are going to change soon, and you'll see what real life is like. She's always been kind of sharp, but this was different. My dad, Ricardo, was barely around, just sitting in the living room scrolling on his phone, not even pretending to care. My sister Ruby, she's a year younger than me, not actually related, but I'll get to that, was acting like she'd just won the lottery, walking around with this smug look, whispering with Mom, and then looking at me like I was a bug on the wall. I thought maybe they were planning some surprise or something, but not in a good way. Like, I wasn't expecting a party, but I figured maybe they'd at least do cake or whatever. I'd been saving up for months working random gigs, and I had this plan to move out after graduation anyway, but I didn't think it'd be like this. So my birthday comes, and it's just the four of us. No friends, no family, not even a text from my aunt. She always forgets, so whatever. Mom makes this dry chicken and microwaved veggies, sets the table, and we all sit down. Nobody says happy birthday. Ruby's on her phone. Dad's just eating like he's not even there. I try to make small talk, but it's like talking to a wall. After dinner, Mom says we need to talk. She's got this look, like she's about to tell me I failed a test or something. She tells Ruby to put her phone down, and Dad finally looks up. I'm just sitting there, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then she just says it. You're adopted. Your real parents didn't want you. Nobody does. She says it like she's reading the weather. I just stare at her because I honestly thought she was joking. I mean, I always kind of felt like the odd one out, but I never thought they'd just say it like that. Then she laughs. Not a nice laugh. More like she's been waiting to say this for years. She says they only kept me for the monthly checks, and those end today. So I'm basically homeless now. She says it's time for me to figure it out and be a man. Ruby starts giggling, and Dad just shrugs like he's got nothing to add. I ask if they're serious, and Mom just rolls her eyes. She says I should have seen it coming, that I was always too much work and never really fit in. Ruby chimes in. Says, what are you gonna do, cry? She's got this look like she's daring me to say something. I just sit there for a second, trying to process it. I'm not even mad at first, just numb, I guess. Then it hits me. All the times they made me do stuff for them. All the times I got blamed for things Ruby did. All the times I got left out of family stuff. It all makes sense. I ask why now, why like this, and Mom just says it's business, not personal. She says I should be grateful they kept me this long. Dad finally speaks up, says I should pack my stuff and not make a scene. I stand up and my chair scrapes the floor. I tell them they'll regret this. I don't even know why I said it, it just came out. Ruby laughs, says I'm being dramatic. I look at her and she just smirks. I grab my phone and my keys, and Mom tells me not to take anything that isn't mine. I ask what that even means, and she says everything in the house belongs to them, not me. I tell her fine, I don't want any of it. I go to my room and Ruby follows me, standing in the doorway like she's guarding it. She says I should hurry up because Mom wants to clean out my room for her craft stuff. I tell her to move, and she just stands there, arms crossed. I push past her, and she shoves me back, but I don't care. I grab my backpack, shove in some clothes, my charger, my old laptop, and that's it. I don't even bother with the rest. As I'm leaving, Mom is standing at the bottom of the stairs, arms crossed. She says I have 10 minutes to get out or she's calling someone. I tell her I'm gone, and she just watches me walk out. Dad doesn't even look up from his phone. Ruby slams the door behind me. I get in my car, it's a piece of junk, but it runs, and just sit there for a minute. I check my phone, no messages, nothing. I start the car and drive off, not really sure where I'm going. I end up at this park I used to go to when I was a kid. Just sit there and try to figure out what the hell just happened. I keep thinking about all the little things over the years. Like how Mom always made a big deal about money. How she'd get mad if I asked for anything. How Ruby always got new stuff and I got hand-me-downs. How dad never really talked to me unless he needed something fixed or moved. I always thought it was just normal family stuff, but now it's like I was just a paycheck to them. I text a couple friends, but it's late and nobody answers. I scroll through my phone, looking for somewhere to crash, but I don't want to explain what happened. I end up just sleeping in my car, hoodie pulled over my head, trying not to think about it. The next morning, I wake up to a text from Mom. She says not to come back, that I'm on my own now. Ruby sends me a meme about homeless people and says, good luck. I just block her. I start thinking about what I'm going to do next. I've got some cash saved, not a lot, but enough to get by for a bit. I've got my documents, my phone, my car. I'm not totally screwed, but I'm pissed. I decide right then I'm not going to let them get away with this. I don't know how yet, but I'm not just going to disappear. They think they can just throw me out and move on. Nah. I've been paying attention for years, and I know more about them than they think. I start making a list in my head of all the stuff I know, all the things they've done, all the ways I can make their lives hell. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not going to be the victim here. They want to play games? Fine. I can play too. So yeah, that's how my 18th birthday went. Not exactly what I pictured, but whatever. I'm not done with them. Not by a long shot. If you're still reading, thanks. I'll update if anything happens. I've got a plan, and I'm just getting started. Update 1. So yeah, I slept in my car that first night, and honestly, it was just weird. Like, I kept thinking I'd wake up and it'd be a bad dream or something, but nope, just me, my backpack, and a half-dead phone. I remember the way Ruby slammed the door behind me, like she was proud of it. I kept replaying that in my head, and the way Mom just stood there, arms crossed, like she was waiting for me to beg. I didn't. The next couple days were just me bouncing around, parking in different spots, trying not to get noticed. I went to this 24-hour gym to shower, used the Wi-Fi at the library, that kind of thing. I didn't want to tell anyone what happened, not even my friends, because, honestly, who wants to be that guy? Plus, I knew if I told anyone, it'd get back to my family, and I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. I started noticing little things right away, like how quiet my phone was. No texts from Mom, no calls from Dad, just a couple memes from Ruby, all of them about being broke or homeless. She even sent me a screenshot of her new room setup, bragging about how much space she had now. I blocked her after that. I guess I always knew she hated me, but it was still weird seeing it out in the open. She always wanted to be the only kid, and I was just in the way. Mom used to say Ruby was her real daughter, when she thought I couldn't hear. I guess that was the point. I started making a list in my notes app, just stuff I remembered about the house, the bills, the way things worked. I'd been the one who handled a lot of the boring stuff, like setting up the Wi-Fi, fixing the router, dealing with the landlord when the sink broke. Mom always said I was good for something when she needed me to do stuff, but now I realized it was just because she didn't want to deal with it herself. Dad never bothered with any of it. He just sat in the living room, scrolling through his phone, pretending not to hear when things broke. I had a little cash saved, not a ton, but enough to get by for a bit. I started looking for cheap places to crash, but everything was either too expensive or too sketchy. I ended up sleeping in my car for a while, just moving around so nobody would notice. I kept thinking about what Mom said, about how they only kept me for the checks. I started wondering what they were going to do now that the money was gone. I knew they weren't exactly rolling in it, and Mom was always complaining about bills. One day, I went back to the house just to see if they'd changed the locks. I parked down the street and watched for a bit. Ruby was outside talking to some friends, showing off her new room. I could hear her laughing from the sidewalk. I didn't go up, just watched for a while, then left. I started thinking about all the stuff I knew about them, all the things they'd done that nobody else knew. I wasn't sure what I was going to do yet, but I knew I wasn't just going to disappear. I started reaching out to some people, not friends, but like my Aunt Lori. She's my mom's sister, and we never really got along, but she always acted like she cared about me more than Mom did. I texted her, just said I needed a place to crash for a night. She called me right away, asking what happened. I told her the basics, just that Mom kicked me out and she got real quiet. She said she'd talk to Mom, but I told her not to bother. I just needed a place to sleep. She let me stay for a night, but it was awkward. Her husband kept asking questions like, what did I do to get kicked out? Was I on drugs? That kind of thing. I just said it was family stuff. I left the next morning. After that, I started thinking more about what I could do. I knew Mom and Dad were behind on the rent because I'd seen the letters from the landlord. I knew they were late on the electric bill because I was the one who always called to get extensions. I knew Ruby was using my old laptop for school and she had no idea how to fix it if it broke. I started making a list of all the things I could mess with, all the ways I could make their lives harder. I wasn't going to do anything illegal, but I wasn't going to make it easy for them either. I started by changing the passwords on the Wi-Fi and the streaming accounts. Nothing major, just enough to annoy them. I knew Mom would freak out when she couldn't watch her shows, and Ruby would lose it if she couldn't get online. I got a bunch of angry texts from Mom asking what I did, but I just ignored her. She threatened to call the cops, but I knew she wouldn't. She never wanted anyone to know what was really going on in the house. I started getting messages from the landlord asking if I knew where Mom was. I told him I didn't live there anymore, and he just sighed. He said he was going to start eviction proceedings if they didn't pay up. I knew Mom would blame me for that, but I didn't care. She always said I was the reason they had money problems, but now she'd have to figure it out on her own. I started talking to some of the neighbors, just casual stuff. They always liked me more than Ruby because I used to help them with their Wi-Fi or fix their bikes. I didn't tell them what happened, but I could tell they knew something was up. One of them, this old guy named Frank, asked if everything was okay at home. I just said I moved out and he nodded like he understood. He said if I needed anything to let him know. I didn't take him up on it, but it was nice to hear. I started getting more texts from Mom, all of them angry at first, then more desperate. She said I was being selfish, that I was tearing the family apart. She said Ruby was struggling in school without my help and Dad was stressed out. I just ignored her. I knew she was only reaching out because she needed something, not because she cared. One night, I got a call from Dad. He never calls, so I almost didn't answer. He just said they needed me to come home and fix the Wi-Fi, that Ruby was failing her classes and Mom was losing it. I told him I wasn't coming back and he just hung up. No goodbye, nothing. I started thinking about all the times they made me feel like I didn't belong. All the times they blamed me for stuff that wasn't my fault. I wasn't going to let them off the hook. I started looking for more ways to make things harder for them, without crossing any lines. I knew Mom was hiding money from Dad because I'd seen her stash cash in the kitchen. I knew Ruby was using my old accounts for school, so I changed the passwords. I knew Dad was behind on his car payments because he used to make me call the bank for him. I started getting messages from Ruby, all of them angry. She said I was ruining her life, that I was being petty. She said Mom was crying all the time and Dad was yelling at everyone. I just blocked her. I didn't care anymore. I started feeling more confident, like I was finally in control. I wasn't just some kid they could push around anymore. I started making plans, real plans for how I was going to get back at them. I wasn't going to do anything stupid, but I wasn't going to let them win either. The last straw was when Mom showed up at my aunt's house, banging on the door, demanding to see me. She said I was stealing from them, that I was ruining their lives. My aunt told her to leave, and Mom slapped her. My aunt slammed the door in her face. After that, I knew I was done with them for good. I started looking for a place to stay. Something cheap, but not terrible. I found a room in a house with a couple other guys, nothing fancy, but it was better than my car. I started working more, saving up, making plans. I knew it was going to take time, but I was patient. I started keeping track of everything, every message, every call, every time they tried to mess with me. I wasn't going to let them forget what they did. I started telling people the truth, not the whole story, but enough that they knew Mom and Dad weren't the saints they pretended to be. I could tell things were getting worse at home. Mom started posting on Facebook about how hard things were, how ungrateful kids could be. Ruby started posting sad stories about being abandoned by her brother. I just laughed. They wanted sympathy, but they weren't going to get it from me. I started thinking about all the ways I could make things harder for them, all the things I could do without breaking the law. I wasn't done yet, not even close, so yeah, that's where things stand now. I'm out, I'm on my own, and I'm not looking back. But I'm not done with them, not by a long shot. Next part's where things really start to get interesting. Update 2. So I guess this is the part where things actually start to get interesting, or at least more real. I'm not going to pretend I had some master plan from day one, but I wasn't just sitting around waiting for karma either. I was mad, and I wanted them to feel it. I wanted them to know what it's like to be powerless, to have everything you count on just not work anymore. And I wanted them to know it was me. It started with little stuff, like I said before, but after a while, I realized that wasn't enough. Changing passwords and ignoring texts is just noise. They could live with that. I wanted them to feel it in their wallets and in their day-to-day, the way they made me feel like a burden for years. I wanted them to have to explain themselves to people who actually mattered to them, not just randoms online. The first weird thing that happened was when I got a call from the landlord, again, but this time he sounded pissed. He said he'd been trying to get a hold of my mom for weeks and she was dodging him. He asked if I knew where she was, and I just said I didn't live there anymore. He started ranting about how the rent was months behind, and how he was sick of the excuses. I could hear him shuffling papers like he was looking for something to threaten me with, but I just let him talk. He finally said he was going to start the eviction process, and I just said, "Do what you gotta do, man." I knew Mom would blame me for that, but honestly, she was the one who stopped paying. She always acted like she was some financial genius, but she was just good at hiding stuff from Dad and yelling at Ruby until she did what she wanted. Dad never paid attention to anything unless it was about his car or his phone. I guess that's why they always needed me to handle the boring stuff, because they couldn't be bothered. I started thinking about all the stuff I knew about them, all the things they'd done that nobody else knew, like how Mom used to take cash from Ruby's birthday cards, or how Dad would borrow money from neighbors and never pay it back. I started making a list just in case I needed it later. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, but it felt good to have something on them for once. Then I started getting messages from Ruby, but not the usual memes or insults. She was actually asking for help. She said her laptop was acting up and she couldn't get her school stuff to work. She said Mom was freaking out because the Wi-Fi was down again, and Dad was yelling at everyone. I just left her on read. I knew she'd figure it out eventually, or she'd just blame me like always. A couple days later, I got a call from my Aunt Lori. She said Mom had called her, crying, saying I'd ruined everything and that the family was falling apart. Lori asked if I could just go over and help them out, just this once, to keep the peace. I told her no, and she got quiet. She said she understood, but I could tell she didn't really get it. She still thought of Mom as her big sister, not the person who kicked her own kid out for money. I started hearing from people in the neighborhood too. Like Frank from down the street messaged me on Facebook, asking if everything was okay at home. He said he'd seen Mom yelling at the landlord in the driveway, and that Dad was just sitting in the car not saying anything. I just said I didn't live there anymore, and he said he was sorry to hear that. He didn't ask for details, which I appreciated. Then things started to get messy. Mom started posting on Facebook about how hard things were, how she was struggling to keep the family together, and how some people just don't appreciate what they have. She didn't mention me by name, but it was obvious. Ruby started posting sad stories about being abandoned by her brother, and her friends started messaging me, asking what happened. I just ignored them. I started getting more calls from the landlord and then from the electric company. They were looking for someone to pay the bills, and I just kept telling them I didn't live there anymore. I knew Mom was getting desperate because she started texting me at all hours, begging me to come home and fix things. She said she was sorry, that she didn't mean what she said, that she just needed help. I didn't answer. One night, I got a call from Dad. He sounded tired, like he hadn't slept in days. He said Mom was losing it, that Ruby was failing her classes, and that the landlord was threatening to kick them out. He said he needed me to come home and help, just for a little while. I told him no, and he just hung up. Then Ruby showed up at my place. I was living in this shared house with a couple of other guys, nothing fancy, but it was mine. She just showed up one night, banging on the door, yelling at me to come out. One of my roommates answered and told her to leave, but she just kept yelling. I finally went outside and she started shoving me, saying I was ruining her life, that Mom was crying all the time, that Dad was a mess. I told her to leave and she slapped me. I just stood there and she started crying. My roommate came out and told her to get lost, and she finally left, slamming the gate behind her. After that, I started getting messages from Mom's friends, people I barely knew, saying I needed to be a man and take care of my family. I just blocked them. I wasn't going to let them guilt me into fixing their mess. I started thinking about all the ways I could make things worse for them, without crossing any lines. I knew Mom was hiding money from Dad, so I sent an anonymous tip to Dad's phone, just a screenshot of her stash spot. I knew Dad was behind on his car payments, so I sent a reminder to the bank just to speed things up. I knew Ruby was using my old accounts for school, so I changed the passwords again just to mess with her. I started hearing from more people, like the neighbors, saying things were getting bad at the house. Mom was yelling at everyone. Dad was never home. Ruby was skipping school. The landlord finally showed up with an eviction notice, and Mom lost it. She called me screaming, saying I'd ruined her life. I just hung up. I started feeling better, like I was finally in control. I wasn't just some kid they could push around anymore. I started making plans for what I was going to do next, how I was going to keep the pressure on. I wasn't going to let them off the hook, not after everything they'd done. The last thing that happened was Mom showing up at my work, yelling at me in front of everyone, saying I was a terrible son, that I was heartless, that I was destroying the family. I just walked away. She tried to follow me, but security stopped her. She slapped one of the guards and got dragged out. After that, I knew she was desperate. So yeah, that's where things stand now. They're falling apart and they know it's because of me. I'm not done yet. Not even close. Next part's where it all comes crashing down. Final update. So I woke up this morning to, I'm not even kidding, over 20 missed calls and a bunch of texts, all from numbers I recognized and some I didn't. I thought maybe something happened to someone, but nah, it was just my family, blowing up my phone like it was the end of the world. I scrolled through the notifications and it was all the same stuff. Justin, please, call us. We need you, son. Come home. And then a bunch of messages from Mom that were just straight up paragraphs. No punctuation. Just her rambling about how everything's falling apart and how I'm the only one who can fix it. I didn't even open them at first, just stared at the screen and kinda laughed. 5 years ago, they couldn't get rid of me fast enough. Now they're acting like I'm the only person left on Earth. The weirdest part was seeing a message from Dad. He never texts, ever. His was just, "Call me please." That's it. No emojis, nothing. I almost didn't believe it was him. Then I saw a couple from Ruby, and hers were all over the place. First she was mad, then she was begging. Then she was mad again. She even sent a voice note, which I didn't listen to, but I could see the preview and it was just her saying my name over and over. I guess I should back up a little. After everything that went down, I kept my distance, but I never really stopped paying attention. I'd hear stuff from neighbors, or from my Aunt Lori, or just from random people who knew my family. It was always the same. Mom was losing it. Dad was never home. Ruby was failing at everything she tried. I didn't care, honestly. I figured they'd figure it out or they wouldn't. But then I started hearing about how bad it was getting. Like, the landlord finally kicked them out, and they had to move into some tiny apartment across town. Mom started fighting with everyone, even her own friends. Dad lost his car because he couldn't keep up with payments, and Ruby dropped out of school. I didn't do any of that directly, but I definitely didn't help them, and I made sure they couldn't use me as a crutch anymore. The thing that really set it off was when Mom tried to get money from my aunt. Lori called me, asking if I knew what was going on, and I just told her the truth. I said, "Look, they kicked me out. They told me I was nothing, and now they want me to bail them out." Lori just sighed and said she was tired of Mom's drama. She said she wasn't giving them anything, and that was that. After that, Mom started calling everyone she knew, trying to get help, but nobody wanted to deal with her. She burned every bridge she had, and now she was stuck. I started getting messages from people I barely knew, like old neighbors or friends of the family, asking if I was okay, if I needed anything. I just said I was fine. I didn't want to get into it, but it was weird seeing how fast people turned on my family once they realized what was really going on. I guess people always knew Mom was a piece of work, but nobody wanted to say it out loud until now. The last straw was when Mom showed up at my place. I was just sitting in the living room, scrolling through my phone, and I heard banging on the door. I looked through the peephole and saw her standing there, hair a mess, eyes wild, just pounding on the door like she was going to break it down. I didn't open it. I just stood there and watched her. She started yelling, saying she needed to talk to me, that she was sorry, that she just wanted her family back. My roommate came out and asked what was going on, and I just said, "Don't worry about it, she'll leave." Mom kept yelling. Then she started crying. Then she started cursing me out. Finally, she just sat down on the steps and put her head in her hands. I waited like 10 minutes, then opened the door and told her to leave. She looked up at me, eyes all red, and said she was sorry, that she didn't mean any of it, that she just needed help. I told her, "You made your choice. You kicked me out, you told me I was nothing. And now you want me to fix your mess? Not happening." She tried to stand up and grab my arm, but I pulled away. She slapped me hard, and I just stood there. I didn't say anything. She started crying again, then got up and walked away, slamming the gate behind her. After that, the calls and texts got even worse. Dad started calling, leaving voicemails, saying he was sorry, that he just wanted to talk. Ruby sent me a bunch of messages saying she missed me, that she was sorry for everything, that she just wanted her brother back. I didn't answer any of them. I blocked their numbers, blocked them on everything. I was done. I started thinking about why they treated me the way they did. I guess it was always about money. Mom never wanted me. She just wanted the checks. Dad just went along with whatever Mom wanted because it was easier than fighting. Ruby hated me because she thought I was taking attention away from her. It was never about family. It was always about what they could get from me. Once the money was gone, I was gone too. I know some people are going to say I should forgive them or that I should try to fix things, but I don't see the point. They made their choice. They wanted me gone, and now they got what they wanted. I'm not going to be their safety net. I'm not going to let them use me anymore. The weirdest part is, I don't even feel bad about it. I thought I would, but I don't. I feel, I don't know, free, I guess. Like I finally got out from under their thumb. I don't have to worry about what they think or what they want or what they need. I can just live my life, so yeah, that's where things are now. My family is falling apart and they're begging me to come back, but I'm not going. I'm done. I don't know what's going to happen to them, and honestly, I don't care. They made their bed. Now they can lie in it. If you're still reading, thanks. I know this was a lot, but I just needed to get it out. I don't know if there's a lesson here or whatever, but I guess if there is, it's that you don't owe anyone anything just because they share your last name. Sometimes family is just people who happen to live in the same house. Sometimes it's not even that. Anyway, I'm moving on. I've got my own life now and I'm not looking back.
My ex-wife is about to be homeless and has asked to live with me and my son. Well, buckle up, friends, because my life's fever dream is about to get weird. I will be as brief as possible, but I am still trying to figure out what to do here, which is why I am posting. Also, to preface, I am leaning towards no, but I wanted to see if I was missing anything. And this is wild. A brief backstory. 3 years ago, during COVID, my ex-wife, Petunia, cheated on me. We have one young son and have been married for 7 years. I tried to work things out, but her mom convinced her she cheated because she was unhappy with me. It was a very high-conflict divorce, and at first, I made a few bad decisions, which was trusting and letting her have access to our joint bank account. I had a ton of false police allegations against me and CPS calls, so I put everything up to a camera. I walked with a body cam outdoors. I was utterly self-monitored to avoid allegations. A week after I put up the cameras, I caught her and her family breaking into my house. Legally speaking, she did not get arrested because we were still married, but it does look bad in court. However, I took my lawyer's advice in the custody my state gives fathers. Fortunately for me, she fell in love with someone in a European country and handed away most of the rights to my son. Most, as in, I got full custody, but she retained legal custody. Therefore, she could pull him out of school or get his medical records, etc. My lawyer said this protected me if we went back to court because she would probably win that before, and I would look bad. 1 year later, she is getting divorced a second time and moving in with our mutual friend. The divorce happened about a month ago, and during this time, she has not attempted to visit my son. Side note here, my lawyer advised me to play it cool, don't antagonize, don't withhold our son. Also, he told me to buy a house. I am in a position to now and set down roots to make it harder to take him away from me. Again, our divorce was a high conflict, and I was terrified she would try and take him from me. I am more than willing to allow her to see her son, and I want to do the right thing and let my son grow up happy. Honestly, that's all I care about. Her history says she is highly volatile, and I am concerned. Current problem, here's where I need advice. I don't want to bury the lead here, so the crux is that she wants to move in for a few weeks until her YouTube career takes off. I am not insane, so I do not have any confidence in said career. I also question her mental health for reasons listed below. What do I do? Our mutual friends, a couple with 3 children, grew tired of Petunia, and for a good reason. They assumed she would do the usual thing, get a job and get back up on her feet. They also work very hard and sometimes struggle to get by, so working 10 hours a day to come home to someone doing absolutely nothing is very discouraging. They gave her a deadline to get out, or they would involve legal matters. That deadline is in a few days. So Petunia has decided to call me and ask if she could live with me for a few weeks. Petunia joined some new age religion. There is a lot of detail to share here, but I want to leave the tangent manageable. Instead, I will link you over to the Aetherius Society. She denies it by name, but line by line, that's what she believes in. I am religious, so I am careful not to make fun of other religions. It would not be sincere of me to do so. But it started with a tarot reading, which led to going on to TikTok, and she believes that she is a star and an ancient alien who came to spread light to the world. It seems like a mix of paganism, Buddhism, and other spiritual things mashed into one. I am trying not to rant about reincarnations and talking with aliens here, so I've deleted many paragraphs of the issues I take with it. She thinks she is a chosen being, risen above the masses, and of course, that plays strongly into the ego. Everyone internally wants to feel like they are unique, and believing you are of some royal bloodline feeds into that. Right now, I am legitimately suspecting mental illness. Our mutual friends tell me that they don't recognize her anymore and that she is being secretive and not letting them know what's happening. I'm a single dad with 100% custody and 0 support from the other parent. My dating life is also not looking up, but I have a promising career, and we get by. I am incredibly fortunate in a lot of ways. I've been getting a ton of therapy for my codependent behaviors, and I don't need this. She tells me she will be homeless if I don't take her in. She is not speaking with her immediate family because she moved to another country. If I let her in, though, it will seriously affect my mental health. What the heck do I do? I am leaning towards calling her bluff and letting her figure it out, though it appears she will never get a job. Would the courts hate that? I am very uncomfortable with this position. OP, your lawyer can give you the best idea of how your judge would react if she took you back to court for custody, but I'm fairly confident this won't do anything but help you. You are protecting your son by providing a safe and stable environment. You said she hasn't tried to see him since moving back from Europe. Letting her move in risks harming your son. I would be shocked if a judge thought your no was a bad thing. Now onto the next story. I'm so happy that my ex-wife is miserable. 3 years ago, I found out my wife was having an affair. She met a guy at work and came home one day telling me she was in love with him, no longer loved me and wanted a divorce. This was a guy she'd only known for 3 months at the time. She and I had been together since we were in our 20s. We have 3 kids, 28M, 26M and 23F. Well, I tried to fight for my marriage and didn't want a divorce, but she simply would not stop seeing this guy. After one weekend where she disappeared from Friday afternoon to Sunday night, I ended up throwing her out of the house. She immediately moved in with this guy. The only excuse she ever gave me was, "I never wanted to hurt you, but there's just something about this guy, and I deserve to be happy." That was it. That was the depth of her reasoning for throwing everything we built together away. We ended up finalizing our divorce in early 2022. Although I had very hard feelings toward her, I faked it enough to get pretty favorable divorce terms from her. It seemed she was so eager to be with her dream man that she didn't have time for a long divorce. So in the end, I got to keep my pension in the house, which I had bought from my grandmother. I did have to give her half of my 401k, however. The effect on our kids was pretty devastating. All 3 of them took it very hard. My oldest son told her that if she chose this man, he'd never have a relationship with her again. As of right now, neither of our sons has a relationship with their mother. Our daughter does talk to her from time to time, but their relationship is very strained, to say the least. My daughter is a very kind person and she tries, but she usually ends her conversations with her mother even more upset than when they started. About 4 months after the divorce, my ex contacted me out of the blue. She told me she had made a terrible mistake and asked if she could come home. Her dream man turned out to be an alcoholic who she says is verbally abusive and wasted all of her money. I used this opportunity to tell her exactly what I thought of her as a person, a wife, and a mother. I told her this was her life now and to deal with it. I told her she no longer had a home at this house and to never contact me again. Then a few things happened over the last year that have driven her to start trying to contact me again. First off, I met someone. My sister introduced me to a friend of hers who is also divorced, and she and I hit it off. We've been seeing each other since last summer, and while we've agreed that neither of us wants to get married again, we are together. Once my ex heard about this, she once again tried to contact me, but I ignored her. My son also got married and didn't invite his mother. She again contacted me to try to get me to intervene on her behalf. I told her I would talk to him, but I never did. Secretly, I feel like she deserves all the pain she's feeling when it comes to our kids. She destroyed our family without so much as an afterthought. Too bad, so sad. Now she recently told our daughter that she finally broke it off with the dream man because she could take his drinking and total lack of responsibility. He wasted her half of the 401k that I had to give her. He also totaled her car driving drunk. This from a man in his 40s. Again, she knew this guy for 3 months and torpedoed our whole family for him. On the face of it, I act like I feel sorry for her, but inside I really delight in the fact that she's so unhappy. Call me evil or whatever, I don't care. She brought this on herself and it serves her right. I actually had to sit there once at night while she got ready for a date with this guy and laughed on the phone with her friend about how awkward our living situation was. I lived in hell for over a year because of her. Wait until she finds out our son and his wife are going to have a baby later this year. Maybe if she had been able to keep her legs closed, she'd get to meet her grandchild. Enjoy your shitty 1-bedroom apartment and your broken down used car. Me and my new partner will think of you when we're on vacation in Hawaii this summer. Hawaii was the trip my ex and I always planned to take once our daughter finished college. Maybe I'll send her pictures. Well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions. I mean, OP tried to make it work and she was in love with some douche. The guy knew she was married and was cool with it? Nah, that's a grade A asshat. She got what was coming to her.
Dad gave his business to my Bill at his retirement party instead of me because I was a disappointment. 2 years back, my dad retired from his position as CEO of the lab equipment business that he had established. He had promised me, for almost 7 years, that I, 30M, would be the next CEO, but on the day of his retirement party, he announced that my brother-in-law was going to be the next CEO. It came as a huge shock to me because I was the one who had organized that party and I had absolutely no idea that this was going to happen. I clapped along with everyone else at the party when he made that announcement, but later on, when I confronted him, he told me that he had his reasons for letting me down. Apparently, my brother-in-law Zach, 34M, was more of a son to him than me since I was just a disappointment. Let me just tell you guys that Zach had only been involved in the business for about a year at the time, whereas I had given 7 years of my life to the company. We had known Zach for a long time, since he and my sister, 33F, had been together for almost 5 years and had been married for 2 back when my dad retired. I had worked with him and he was a good guy, from whatever I had gathered, but I still couldn't come to terms with the fact that my dad thought this guy was more of a son to him than his biological son. When I asked him to elaborate how exactly I had disappointed him, he said the most asinine thing that I could imagine, and it was then that I lost all respect that I had for my father. He told me that it was a very difficult decision for him to make, but eventually, he would have to do what was good for the company. And somebody as mentally weak as I would never be able to be a good leader, which is why he had passed me over to choose Zach to take his place, since my dad believed that Zach had more qualities like my father than I did. By calling me mentally weak, he was referring to the fact that I had been diagnosed with a general anxiety disorder, and I had made the mistake of telling my family about it a couple of months before my dad retired. While I was having dinner with my parents one night, I accidentally dropped a small container of anti-anxiety pills that had been prescribed, and then, I had to explain it all to my parents. My mother was quite fine with it, but my father is not exactly a huge believer of the importance of mental health. He thinks that being tough is the solution for everything, and after I told him that I had anxiety, he started having less faith in me. I feel like I should mention that my anxiety had never affected my quality of work, and I had never allowed it to get to a stage where it would make me less capable of being able to lead a company. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people in upper management positions probably do deal with anxiety. It can't just be me, and I'm sure that they are able to deal with their anxiety without letting it get in the way of their work. But my dad told me that I had disappointed him by making excuses for my weakness and even resorting to pills for all of this nonsense. And so, after a lot of deliberation, he had decided that Zach would be the perfect candidate to take over the company instead of me. He told me that if I wanted to leave, I was free to do so, but because he couldn't trust me to lead the company like he had, since I had already shown him that I was not strong enough, he was not willing to hand over the reins to me. It was not only what he had said, it was also the fact that he had led me to believe that I would be the next CEO, even though he had made up his mind about it well before the retirement party. It was really hurtful, and that night, I left the party early and never spoke to my dad again because he had really hurt me. At the end of the day, it was his company, so he could choose whoever he thought was the best choice, and if he thought that my anxiety was going to get in the way, then I had to respect his choice. But I didn't have to stick around and tolerate this kind of disrespect, so I resigned, and within a couple of weeks, I started working elsewhere. The only person from the family that I have kept in touch with was my mother after my sister found out that I was resigning because I was pissed that my father had made Zach the CEO instead of me. She chose to take that as a personal attack instead of trying to understand where I was coming from. She called me later on to come to my dad's defense, and we got into a fight, after which we stopped talking. For the past 2 years, I have not spoken to my father or my sister, and obviously, I have had no contact with Zach. Occasionally, I do speak to my mother and check up on how she's doing. We try to meet at least once a month, and every time we meet, she tries to tell me to make things right with my father, but I'm just not interested. And about a week ago, my mother called me and she was quite frantic. She told me that apparently Zach had been caught up in some fraudulent activities, tax fraud essentially, and had been arrested, and now, even my dad was under investigation because of his previous association with the company. I thought that was very upsetting, but I didn't know what exactly she expected me to do about it. So she told me that she wanted me to speak to my father, sort things out with him, and testify for him in court, if it came down to it, since I had worked with the company earlier. But I was very clear with my mother, and I told her that I was not going to get involved at all in any capacity. I was pretty sure that if my dad was getting investigated, all the other higher-ups involved with the company were going to get investigated at some point. If Zach had committed fraud, then it was quite a serious charge, and I don't want to get into the details of it, but all I know is that the farther I stay from this mess, the better off I am. So I told my mother very clearly that I was not going to stick out my neck for my father, and they were going to have to deal with this on their own because I don't want any trouble. Besides, if my dad even really wanted my help, he should have spoken to me himself. He's the one who needs me, why should I be the one to contact him first? My mother then started telling me that I was being childish and that instead of still being petty, I needed to talk to my father and clear the air with him because this was not going to be easy for the family, and right now, we needed to stick together. I thought that my mother was being unreasonable, and I told her that my decision was final. I was not going to be reaching out to my father at any cost. So she then got mad at me and said that I was selfish and heartless because even when the family was going through so much, all I cared about was what had happened 2 years ago. And I think that was a really insensitive thing to say to me, because if she had been in my position, she would have felt exactly how betrayed I had, and she also wouldn't have been able to move on from that so quickly. She would not have been able to forgive my father if she had been in my position, getting passed over for a position that you had worked so hard for almost 7 years for something that was completely out of your control. It's ridiculous to expect me to forgive him, especially when my father has never even pretended to be apologetic for what he had done to me. I don't think anybody can forgive a person who is not even sorry in the first place, so my mother and I just kept arguing for a while. Eventually, I just told her that this is probably karma for screwing me over, and whatever is happening with Zach and my father right now, they completely deserve it. Then, my mother went silent, and after a while, she hung up. I felt bad for saying it, so I was going to call her back a couple of hours later, but then, I realized that she had blocked me. And now, I feel super guilty about what I said. So Ida for saying that my dad was probably facing his karma because he had passed me over to be the CEO? Update 1. Hey, everybody, it has been 1 week since my mother blocked me and I haven't been able to get to her so far. I'm trying not to feel bad about it, but honestly, there's not much that I can do. She was the only person who was still in touch with me for the past 2 years, and without her, I feel really lost and alone. Obviously, I do have my friends to fall back on, and they are all here for me, but she was the only person from my family who was looking out for me, and now, I don't even have her. It's quite difficult coming to terms with this, and I really want to reach out to her, but I'm still going to maintain that I have not done anything wrong. I don't think that I said anything out of line, because I really do think that this might be karma for kicking me out of the company over something that I had absolutely no control over. Yes, I do have an anxiety disorder, but like I said, it's not crippling. It does not affect my leadership qualities, it does not affect my ability to work as well as everyone else, and it certainly did not make me a disappointment like my father said. Whether people like it or not, words carry meaning, and what he had said to me on the night of his retirement party has stuck with me for the past 2 years. His primitive attitude towards mental health and its importance seriously messed up my self-esteem for a good couple of months, and I kept doubting myself, rethinking every decision that I had made so far, and I felt like an imposter even in my new workplace. It took me a lot of time to get over that, and even now, I'm currently in therapy because there are a lot of unresolved issues that I'm dealing with. However, it has never once affected my ability to work, and I'm one of the best employees at my workplace, something my bosses keep reminding me of since they plan on promoting me pretty soon. So I really do think that my dad messed up big time, and if my mother can't see that, it's not my fault. It just sucks that she's choosing to take my dad's side on this instead of telling him to suck it up and apologize to me. I can't understand why she thinks that I should be the one to make amends first, but one thing is for sure, I'm not doing jack for the family until they tell me that they are sorry for everything. And they have to say it like they mean it. I'm not going to be used again for their personal gain. Update 2. My sister came by to visit me today, and it was very tense because she was hysterical. She just wanted me to help her out since her husband was in huge trouble, but honestly, I don't even know what they expect me to help them out with. My hands are tied here. This is a federal crime, and I don't think I can do anything to help them out. She looked like she was in a terrible state, which is why I had invited her in, and I tried to be kind to her to the best of my abilities because I'm not heartless. I can't just slam the door when somebody is suffering so much. Anyway, she just kept crying on my shoulder and kept telling me that she had no idea that any of this was happening, and if she had, she would have put an end to it immediately. She told me that she's really worried about what's going to happen with him, and she wants me to use my connections to bail him out, but I told her that unfortunately, I don't have any such connections that would prove to be useful here. But she then told me that our father had said that in the company I'm working in currently, one of my bosses is married to a federal judge, and he was hoping that maybe I could speak to my boss and do something for them. She even suggested that they would be ready to pay whatever amount it took, but they just wanted me to put them in touch with my boss and by extension, his wife. I thought that was pretty out of order, even for her to ask, let alone expect me to do that. I instantly said no, and I told her that I would appreciate it if she left me alone because I thought she had come by because she wanted my emotional support, but this was something that I was not going to encourage or even entertain. And I was saying no for multiple reasons, the main one being I did not want to bring this up with my bosses and have them associate me with a family of frauds. More importantly, I had my personal code of morals and ethics as well, and I did not wish anything bad for my sister, but if Zach had actually committed tax fraud, then I didn't want to be caught up in a scenario where I was trying to help him out and influence the situation in his favor. At this point, it was not even anything personal against him, it was just that I did not want to get involved, and the most that I could do for them was be there emotionally, but apart from that, it was crazy to expect me to go to such lengths. When I said no, and asked her to leave, my sister started sulking and said that she couldn't believe that I was still holding a grudge against her husband for something that was not even his fault. I tried to explain to her that this was not about that, and as a matter of fact, I had never really blamed him for what had happened with my father. It was my father's decision to give him the position instead of me and allow him to take over the company, and if I was in his place, I probably would have accepted that position as well without thinking about who actually deserved it. So yeah, maybe I resented him a little bit, but I didn't hold it against him, and I definitely did not hold a grudge against him. He was just simply not important enough for that, and I tried to say that to my sister, but she just refused to even hear me out and said that our mother had been right. It was pointless to try and talk to me because I was still extremely petty and selfish. So we ended up fighting once again, and I told her to leave my house because she couldn't just waltz in and insult me after everything that happened, especially after I had tried to comfort her, though she had never extended that same courtesy to me when I was going through a tough time, and in fact, she had actually fought with me back then because she took it as a personal attack. 2 years later, she was still doing the same thing, so if anybody was being petty and selfish, it was my family. And that comment that she had made, about our mother being right about me, made me feel really bad because throughout the past 2 years, she had been the only one who was there for me, and now it felt like she had never actually been there for me at all, and it was all for show. I was already very hurt, and my sister refused to leave. She just kept standing there and said one hurtful thing after the other, so it eventually came to a point where both of us started screaming so loudly at each other that I couldn't even make out what she was saying. We ended up cursing at each other, but then, she finally left, and I feel terrible about everything that's going on, but at the same time, I feel like they deserve every bad thing that's happening to them. I honestly feel like even keeping in touch with my mother for the past 2 years had been a huge mistake, and I should have just cut my entire family off when I had the chance. Even now, I regret trying to be there for my sister because she was acting hysterical. They are definitely not worthy of my time or energy anymore, and they keep proving it to me again and again, but for some reason, I just keep finding it incredibly difficult to cut them out of my life entirely. I keep thinking about our childhood, how close we used to be, and my heart hurts to even talk about it now. All of this just genuinely sucks. I just wish for it all to be over soon. Update 3. Hey, so it's been 4 days since my sister visited and we got into that fight, and after that, nobody spoke to me for the next 4 days. I almost started thinking that they were going to leave me alone now, but today, my parents finally showed up, and this time, I had made up my mind that I was not going to let them in. I had already made the mistake of letting my sister in last time, and then we all know how that ended, so I was not going to repeat my mistake. They were standing outside the door and I told them to leave because I really didn't think that I had anything to discuss with them, and they couldn't possibly have anything new to say to me that they hadn't already said, so we could just not waste each other's time and let this be. But my dad said that he was not here to ask me for any sort of help, but he was actually here to apologize to me because, after a really long time, he had realized that he had done the wrong thing. He told me that he had screwed up in the worst possible way, and he knew that nothing that he said at this point was ever going to make it better, but the least he could do was at least try to talk to me and let me know that he was really sorry for all of this. And I have got to tell you guys, that really took me by shock because I really was expecting him to show up and start yelling at me or something. We haven't spoken to each other after the night of his retirement party, and I still remember that he had called me a disappointment. I don't think I'll ever forget. That was all that I was thinking about while he was apologizing and he was done talking. I told him that I was really thankful that he had come all the way here to apologize to me, but it isn't that easy for me to forgive him. He can't just apologize and expect everything to be fine just like that, especially when we haven't even interacted with each other in the past 2 years and he has never made an effort to talk to me either. So I told him that I needed my time, and even then, I wasn't sure if I would ever be able to bring myself to forgive him. It wasn't even the fact that he had screwed me over 2 years back that was bothering me even now, but the fact that it took him 2 years and so much trouble to realize that he had not done the right thing and to finally come and talk to me, that's what made me feel really sad. Even after that, I was just waiting for him to get mad at me and start yelling, but he just said that he was ready to wait for me to come around, and even if I decided never to speak to him again and did not forgive him, he would be fine with that as well. He said that 2 years back, he had made a very stupid decision, and it was not that he hadn't taken my mental health seriously, it was that he had taken it a little too far. He explained to me that his father and all the men in his family had always been really rough and tumble, and he had been raised the same way. He had been raised to believe that what we had to do to get through life was just to fight, and everybody who claimed they had anxiety or depression or whatever, they were just weak and they were making excuses for themselves and their weakness. And so, when he found out that I was taking anti-anxiety pills, he started thinking that maybe I was not up to the task of leading the company, and he had built this business from scratch, so he couldn't afford to let that go to waste. It was his fear and paranoia that got to him, and he made the worst decision that he could have possibly made, which has led him to this situation. He then told me that after we stopped speaking, he was really mad at me and resented me for a couple of months, but then he started second-guessing himself and started reading more and more about anxiety and how it functions. And a couple of months ago, he started feeling like he might have some symptoms himself as well, and he was planning on reaching out to me to try and make things right, but then this fiasco with Zach came into light and he was not able to do that. After he told me all of this, I felt really weird about the situation, and I still don't know how to feel about any of this, but at the very least, he has apologized to me. I know that after 2 years, it's not much, but to me, it means a lot. I don't know if I will be forgiving him anytime soon, and I really don't know if this apology was real or not, but I'm willing to at least think about it and give it a chance. For now, I just told him to go back home and I would contact him if I felt like it. And he respected that and went back after that. As for my mom, we didn't really get the opportunity to speak much today. She did apologize to me in the beginning for her behavior as well, along with my father. Towards the end of my conversation with my father, she told me that she was ready to wait for me to forgive her. She said that she might have reacted a little too quickly and a little too harshly instead of trying to understand what I was going through. She also said that she had spoken to my sister, and she also wanted to apologize to me on her behalf because she also thinks that she has treated me really badly in the past, but I don't think I will be counting that as a real apology. My sister is an adult, she's a grown-up, and she can speak to herself if she wants to. If she wants to apologize, she's going to have to come to do it herself, and I can understand that she's just trying to deal with everything to do with Zach right now, but that's still not an excuse to behave with me the way that she did the last time that she visited. Anyway, the point is that most of my family members have apologized to me, and now it's up to me whether I want to accept the apology or not. I'm not gonna lie, it's going to be a very difficult decision to make. I have spent 2 whole years of my life without any contact with any of these people, from my mother, of course. And even with her, things are pretty dicey right now. On one hand, I really want to forgive all of them and move on with my life because I don't think resentment is going to take me ahead. If I don't forgive them, these things are just going to keep running in my mind endlessly like it has been for the past couple of years, and I really don't want that. On the other hand, I don't know if forgiving them and letting all of this stay in the past is the right thing to do. I'm just really confused about what to do right now, if I'm being honest. I miss my family terribly and all of this is messing with my head. I know a lot of you might be thinking that they are only doing this because they are in trouble right now, but I've already made it very clear that I cannot help them, and even if I could, I wouldn't. It's a matter of principles for me, and I'm not going to change that for anyone, no matter what. So if that's what they are hoping is going to happen, they have already set themselves up for failure. And in case that's not on their minds, and they are genuinely trying to apologize to me and repair our broken relationships, then that just complicates things even more. I guess I'm just gonna have to sleep on it for a couple of days and then I'll think about what I want to do. I'll keep you guys updated. Update 4. Hey, everyone. I was able to log in here after almost 4 months since I got really busy in the middle. Why that happened, I'll come to that later. Anyway, the last time that I posted an update, my parents and my sister had just apologized to me. My parents had apologized to me in person, but my sister, I guess she was too caught up with the situation with Zach, and that's why she had told our mother to apologize to me on her behalf. She visited me a couple of weeks after that and apologized to me in person as well. And I told her the same thing that I had told my parents, that I would think about it and let her know what I wanted to do about this. And I did think about it. I took my own sweet time, and last month, I told them that I would like to rebuild my relationship with them, but it had to be at my own pace. I told them that I would be willing to have dinner with them once a month from now onwards and see where it goes, because I'm still not sure if rebuilding a relationship with them is a good idea or not, but they were thrilled and said that they were okay with it as long as I was happy. So that's where it's at right now, and we had dinner together a couple of weeks ago this month. It was sufficiently awkward, but I could see that they were really trying to make up for the past by being extra nice to me. Zach was not present at this dinner since my sister filed for a divorce from him 2 months ago and he had already been fired from the company. My dad offered to make me the CEO, but I declined. I think I need some more time. So my dad is handling things at the company right now and he is still waiting for an answer from me. I'm gonna think about it for a couple of more months and then, I don't know, I might accept. For now, I'm just trying to make time for the things that I love. And that includes my girlfriend. She is a really old friend of mine who I started dating a couple of months ago, and that's what has kept me so busy for so long, because now, there is more to my life than just work and family drama. In fact, she is the one who convinced me to forgive my family and give them a second chance. I'm really happy that we are together because so far, I have never asked her out even though I have liked her for a really long time, because I didn't want to get rejected and then end up ruining our friendship. But I'm glad that she took the first step. Now, we are together and I'm as happy as can be. So things are going pretty well for me right now.
When I got fired, my parents laughed and said, "You've always been all talk, no results." A week later, they threw a backyard party to celebrate my sister's unpaid internship. When I asked if I could come, my dad said, "Why? So you can sulk in the corner and remind everyone what failure looks like." My mom added, "She earned this. You've earned nothing but pity and shame." I just smiled and said, "You'll regret this celebration one day." 6 months later, I made a move that left them crying on the porch. They once kicked me off. They're calling every night. "Please, we need you more than ever." So IDK if anyone else's family does this thing where they act like you're invisible when you're not doing what they want, but yeah, that's my house lately. Literally started this week with my mom standing in the kitchen, looking dead, at me eating reheated lasagna. Then she goes, "Losers eat leftovers." Not even joking, didn't even blink. I laugh, 'cause honestly, what else am I doing? But she just walks out and leaves me standing there with my cold food and my phone. My name's Barrett BTW. I'm 27. Live at home 'cause rent is hell. And yeah, got fired a couple weeks ago. Not gonna get into all that, not like I was out here changing the world, but I wasn't an idiot. I always paid my way. But my dad, Lorenzo, and mom, Ruth, are the kind of people who think if you're not showing off, you're not worth much. Like dad's always talking about real results, mom's all about what the neighbors think. My little sis June just got this unpaid internship, PR or marketing or whatever. She changes the story every time. And suddenly she's the golden child. I'm not even mad at her. She's always been the easy one. She does what they want, keeps her head down, doesn't make waves. I don't. I never have. Anyway, so I'm in the kitchen, minding my business, and my dad walks in, looks at me, and goes, "Unemployment office call again?" Like that's even a thing. I don't even answer. I just take my food and bounce to my room. Next day, I come down and there's all this stuff in the backyard, folding tables, bags of chips, soda, all that. I ask what's up. Mom barely looks at me and goes, "We're throwing June a party for her internship." I'm like, "Oh, cool. When is it?" She says, "End of the week." So I go, "Do you want me to help set up or something?" Dad's there now, leans on the counter and says, "Why? So you can sulk in the corner and remind everyone what failure looks like?" I laugh thinking he's joking, but he's not even smiling. Mom cuts in, says June earned this. "You've earned nothing but pity and shame." I can't even lie, that hurt. I say, "You know, it's not like I wanted to lose my job." Dad just shrugs, says I've always been all talk, no results. And maybe it's time I learned what real life is. It's not a new thing for him, TBH. He's always been on my ass about doing something real or making something of myself. I always had this feeling he just doesn't think I'm wired right or whatever, like I'm not enough. Mom piles on, says maybe if I'd listen to them instead of wasting time online, I'd be celebrating too. I snap a little. I'm like, you think I'm not trying? You think I sit around wanting to be here? She just waves me off, goes back to wiping the counter. June walks in. She's got this nervous look like she wants to say something but she won't. She never really stands up for me, not against them. I get it, honestly. So I go up to my room again, scroll on TikTok, just try not to think about it. It's honestly wild, like I know I'm not perfect, but they're acting like I killed someone. I hear them downstairs talking about the food list. Who's coming, all that. It's all family, basically. I text my cousin Rachel, ask if she's going. She says yeah, and asks if I'll be there. I tell her I DK, honestly. Friday comes. I wake up to my mom banging on my door. She says if I'm not going to help, at least stay out of the way. I try to go down and get coffee. She's literally standing in front of the machine, blocking me, talking on the phone about how proud she is of June. I go to grab chips off the counter. Dad slaps my hand away. Not hard, but enough to piss me off. Says those are for the party, not for me. I just look at him. He says if I want to eat, I can go get my own stuff. I say, fine, I'll go get a burrito, whatever. He smirks. Says if I have money for that, maybe I should start paying rent. I tell him I don't even have a job. He says, maybe I should get one. So I grab my jacket and leave. I wander around for a bit, sit at the park, scroll job boards. Nothing new. I'm honestly kind of numb at this point, like, what do they want from me? I head back home after a couple hours, try to sneak in while the party's starting. There's like 20 people in the backyard, music blasting. Everyone laughing, June in the middle, getting hugged by aunts and uncles. I try to just go to my room, but Dad catches me at the bottom of the stairs. He says, "You're not coming out there, are you?" I say. I wasn't planning on it. He says, "Good, don't ruin it for everyone." I just nod, whatever. Later I hear them all doing karaoke, singing happy birthday. Even though it's not her birthday, whatever. Mom's got her phone out, taking non-stop pics. I can hear June's friends talking about how nice her family is, how supportive. I just sit there, watching YouTube, trying to tune it out. At one point, someone bangs on my door. I think it's June, but when I open it, it's my dad. He's got a drink in his hand, says, "You could have been out there, if you'd just gotten your act together." I laugh, say, "You really think I want to celebrate an unpaid internship?" He gets mad, steps up close, says, "I need to get my life together or get out." I tell him, "You'll regret this celebration one day." He laughs, says, "Sure I will," leaves, slams my door. I sit there, listening to them cheering outside, and I just think, all right, fine. That's how it's going to be. I start making a plan. Not even a revenge thing at first, just like, I'm not letting them do this to me and walk away smiling. TBH, I don't even know what winning looks like yet, but I'm not just going to take it. Not anymore. They wanted a show? I'll give them one. That's when it started. Next update soon. IDK if anyone cares, but it gets way uglier. Update 1. So I wake up the morning after the backyard party, and the first thing I hear is my mom in the hallway on the phone, talking to someone about how proud she is, how June's really going places, not like some people. She says it loud enough I can hear through my door. I just stare at my phone, not even scrolling. It's like 8 a.m. I go out to grab water and my dad's by the sink flipping through his phone, doesn't even look at me. Just says, if you're not gonna work, you can at least not eat all the food. I look at him, thinking he's half joking, but he means it. Mom comes down, ignores me, starts clearing up the party stuff, kinda humming. June comes in from the yard. She's wearing this new jacket, probably a gift from Mom TBH, and she gives me this look like she's sorry, but not enough to do anything. She goes upstairs without saying anything. Rest of the day's just awkward. Mom makes eggs for everyone but me. Says if I want to eat, I can make my own. There's noodles in the pantry. I boil some ramen, whatever. Sit at the end of the table scrolling Reddit. And they just talk over me about June's big future. I try to cut in, say I have an interview next week. Dad just shakes his head and says, "Sure, we'll see." Not holding my breath. I laugh. He says, "You act like you're owed something." I just say, "Nah, just trying to get by." Later I try to get on the Wi-Fi and it's not working. I go down to check the router and there's a sticky note says, "Family only, get your own." I just stare at it. I ask Mom, "Is the Wi-Fi down?" She says, "No, we just changed the password." I ask why. She says, "You want to live like an adult, you can pay for your own stuff." She's not yelling, just cold. I go back up, hotspot my phone. Whatever. It's petty, but it stings. I messy, my friend Sawyer, say my parents are losing it. He says, "Dude, just move out." Easy for him to say. He's got a whole basement to himself. I start looking up rooms for rent, but everything's expensive AF. I check my bank, not enough to last more than a couple months if I bail. I tell myself I'll make it work, just need time. That week, they start locking up groceries in a bin in the garage. You'd think I was stealing. I catch Mom with a padlock and she says, "Just being practical, food isn't free." I say, "I'm not a thief." She shrugs, says, "You want to eat? Go buy your own." I get mad, say, "You're acting crazy." She says, "We're not running a shelter, Barrett." I slam the fridge. She keeps washing dishes. Dad gets home that night. I hear them talking loud in the kitchen, not yelling, just tense. He comes up and knocks, says, "We need to talk." I open the door. He steps in, closes it behind him, sits on my bed. He says, "I know you're struggling, but you gotta start pulling your weight." I say, "I'm trying. I got an interview." He says, "We can't keep carrying you. You're not a kid." I say, "I'm not asking for handouts. I just need space to get back on my feet." He says, "You've been saying that for years." I say, "It's been weeks, not years." He just shakes his head, stands up, says, "I don't want to be the bad guy, but you can't just coast." I say, "Maybe stop treating me like trash for a minute and you'd see I'm trying." He gets mad, says, "Watch your mouth." I say, "Or what?" He pushes me. Not hard, but enough to make his point. I shove him back. He says, "Real mature." I say, "Don't touch me." He leaves, slams the door. I sit on my bed, just staring at the wall. Next day, Mom sends me a Venmo request for rent. Not even a nice message, just rent. I text her, "What's this?" She says, "If you're gonna live here, you pay." I say, "Where's this coming from?" She says, "We're not your backup plan." I laugh, say, "You made it clear I'm not part of the plan at all." She leaves me on read. For a while, I just stay in my room, only go out when no one's around. June tries to talk to me once, says, "They're just stressed, it's not about you." I say, "You didn't say anything when they trashed me in front of everyone." She says, "I didn't want to make it worse." I say, "Must be nice to have backup." She just sighs. I start doing little gigs online, nothing major, just enough to keep my phone paid and get some groceries. Mom sees me bringing in food one night, says, "You got money for takeout but not rent." I say, "I'm working, just not the way you want." She says, "It doesn't count if you're just playing on your phone." I say, "It's not your business." She says, "You live in my house, it is my business." I say, "Fine, maybe I won't for long." She says, "That's up to you." I take my food to my room, lock the door. Dad gets on a call with my uncle, speaker on, doesn't care that I can hear. He's telling him Barrett just doesn't get it. He thinks life will just come to him. Uncle says maybe he needs a wake-up call. Dad says maybe kicking him out will do it. I'm sitting right there. I grab my shoes, leave for a walk. No one notices. For a while, it's just silent treatment. Mom doesn't talk to me unless she has to. Dad just glares. June's barely home. When she is, she just hides in her room. I miss when we were close, but it's obvious she'd rather not get dragged in. I get it, but it sucks. I apply to 100 jobs. Nothing sticks. I start selling old stuff online, sneakers, old headphones, whatever. Dad sees me packing something up in the garage, says, "You're finally getting rid of your junk?" I say, "Yeah." Making space. He says, "Maybe you should clear out for real." I say, "Maybe I will." He laughs like he doesn't believe me. One night, I hear them arguing downstairs. It's about money. Mom says, "We can't keep covering for him. It's not fair to June." Dad says, "He'll figure it out or he won't. Not our problem." They see me at the top of the stairs, stop talking. I go back up. The next morning, someone's taken the charger from my room. I ask June if she's seen it. She says, "Ask Mom." I find Mom in the kitchen. She says, "Maybe if you paid for your own things, you'd take better care of them." I say, "I do." She says, "Not enough." I just take the charger and walk out. She mutters something, but I don't care. I get a text from Mom the next day. "If you can't pay rent by next week, you need to leave." I text back, "I'll figure it out." She says, "You always say that." I don't answer. So now I'm just hustling, eating ramen, avoiding everyone, barely sleeping. I start thinking, they really don't want me here. Fine. They want to see what I can do. They're about to find out. I start making a list of all the things I helped them with. Stuff around the house, tech stuff, fixing accounts, all that. I realize how much they rely on me for the stuff they don't even notice. I'm done playing nice. I get to work. Update 2. So after that whole rent demand and them locking up the groceries and Wi-Fi and whatever, I just stopped pretending. Like if they want to freeze me out, I'll do it back. I started staying out late, coming in at weird times just so I wouldn't have to deal with them. Sometimes I'd sleep in my car or crash on Sawyer's couch. I'd take showers at weird hours so I wouldn't run into any. I'd hear my mom talking about me on the phone with her friends, saying stuff like, "He's still here, it's embarrassing. We don't know what to do with him." I kept a list in my notes app, stuff I fixed for them over the years. It was longer than I realized. TV setup, Wi-Fi, banking apps, online forms, all the little things they never figured out on their own. If they want me out, they can learn the hard way. So I start making my own plans. First, I need out. Like out for real. I got a few gigs going. Nothing crazy, but I was stacking cash and selling random stuff. Old consoles, sneakers, anything I could. I found a room posted by this dude on Facebook Marketplace. Not fancy, but cheap enough. Went to see it. It was sketchy, but whatever. Better than home. Signed for 1 month, paid in cash. I didn't tell anyone. I just started moving small stuff out on random nights. Clothes in my backpack, my old laptop, chargers, all that. After a week, most of my things were gone and no one even noticed. On my last night, I waited until everyone was asleep, grabbed the last of my stuff, left my house key on the kitchen counter. I didn't write a note for them, just texted June so she wouldn't freak out. Told her I was fine and not to tell them where I was if they asked. She just sent back a thumbs up and that was it. First week in the new place, I kept waiting for some huge fallout, but it was dead quiet. No one texted, no calls, nothing from my parents. I figured they were happy I was gone. Fine by me. But here's the thing. My dad's been running this little side hustle for years, selling stuff online, fixing people's electronics, whatever. He never learned how to do any of the back-end stuff himself, not really. I'd always helped him with listings, automating inventory, cleaning up the tech, all that. He'd brag to everyone how smooth his setup was, but it was basically me doing everything and him taking the credit. Now I was gone, so I just stopped doing it. About a month in, I get this weird voicemail from him. Hey, can you call me? I just have a quick question about my laptop. Can't get into one of the accounts. I ignore it. Next week, another call. Hey, having some issues with the printer. Need to get these shipping labels out. Can you help? I don't answer. Then a text, not even friendly, just, I need you to fix this. It's urgent. Lol. So I start seeing stuff posted in his group chats. People complaining about slow shipping, mislisted items, asking if he's quitting. I know exactly why. He never took notes, never wrote down passwords, always just called me. Now he's stuck. Mom starts texting too, trying to guilt trip me. If you cared about your family, you'd help your father with this stuff. You know how much it means to him, all that. I read it, don't reply. Then I start getting more creative. I know all the routines. When they check accounts, who they email, what passwords they use or forget. I don't mess with anything illegal, but I remove my admin rights on all the stuff I controlled. Let it run its course. When my dad tries to reset the Wi-Fi or the TV, he can't. When mom tries to send out invites for her meetups, the mailing list is gone. I deleted my profile, not hers. They start to realize how much I actually did. Meanwhile, I'm just grinding away, making my own moves. I start freelancing for other people, picking up side jobs. Nothing crazy, but I'm not starving. I help Sawyer's uncle with stuff for cash, pick up odd stuff on Craigslist, whatever. I keep my head down, phone silent except for a couple friends. June texts me sometimes, just memes or mom's losing her mind type stuff. But she never asked me to come back. I can tell she's stressed though. She's stuck in that house with her internship is still unpaid. She's burning through her savings. About 2 months after I left, I see my dad at the gas station. He looks rough, like he's not sleeping. He walks up, says, "You really gonna ignore your family after all we did for you?" I say, "What exactly did you do for me?" He says, "We gave you a place to stay, food, everything." I say, and made sure I knew I was a failure every day. He says, "That's not fair. We just wanted better for you." I say, "You wanted someone to blame when things sucked." He tries to get in my face, but I keep calm. He pushes my arm. I push back. He mutters something about ungrateful kids and walks off. I watch him go, not even mad, just done. After that, the texts get desperate. Mom says they're behind on bills. Dad's business is falling apart. She's ashamed to ask, but needs my help. I don't answer. I see her calling family, asking for advice, but no one wants to get involved. Uncle texts me, says, "Maybe you could help your dad out, just for a bit." I say, "He made his choice." Uncle says, "Family is family." I say, "Not when they treat you like." I start hearing from friends of the family, random aunties, neighbors, messaging me on Facebook saying, "Your parents are struggling. Can you at least talk to them?" I say, "They know how to reach me. They just don't want to say sorry." They say, "You shouldn't hold a grudge." I say it's not a grudge, it's a boundary. Then June calls, first time in months. She sounds tired, says, "Dad's business is dead. Mom's not sleeping. I don't know what to do." I say maybe they should have thought of that before. She says, "You're not wrong, but it sucks being." I tell her, "You can stay with me anytime." She says, "I might," but she doesn't. Next day, she sends a text, says, "I'm sorry." I leave her on read, not ready for that yet. Now I'm just working, stacking cash, keeping receipts. I got a plan, but I'm not rushing it. They wanted to see what happens when they push me out. They're about to get the full experience. And honestly, I'm just getting started. Final update. So here's the thing. It all gets kind of weird after month 4. Like, I'm finally not thinking about them every second. I got my own spot. Shared house, but privacy once. I'm stacking up small wins. Nothing flashy, just like breathing room. But I start hearing stuff. Sawyer's mom runs into my mom at the store. They're not friends, but she tells Sawyer my mom looked rough, Said something about everything falling apart and June being the only reliable one left. In GL, that makes me laugh because June's still stuck with them, grinding away for nothing, and now she's sending me texts like, "Do you know how to fix the TV?" And "Dad's losing it over the router. Please help." I leave her on scene. Then one night I get a call from my dad. Not a text, a call, which is already a red flag because the last time he called it was to tell me to man up. Now he sounds tired, his voice is flat. He says, "We need to talk. Can you stop by the house?" I say I'm busy. He says, "Please." That's it, just please. Days go by, more missed calls. My mom texts, just says, "We really need you, Barrett. Come home." I ignore. So I'm out walking back from the store one day and I see my parents out on their porch. They're sitting together, not talking, just staring at nothing. I know that look. It's the same one Dad used to give me after a bad day, but now it's pointed at their own house. I keep walking. They don't even see me. Next day, I get a DM from my uncle, says, "No joke. Can you help your dad? He's in trouble with his side thing. He's lost a bunch of money. Mom's worried about bills." I say, "They know where I am." Uncle says they're too proud. I say, "Not my problem." I start thinking about all the crap they put me through. No Wi-Fi, no food, the party, the rent demands, all of it. I decide I'm done letting them control the store. I check out the house listings just for fun. Turns out, the house next door to theirs is up for rent. Not even that expensive with roommates. I hit up an old classmate, Rachel. She's chill, needed a place. And we split the rent. We sign the next week. 2 days later, I move. First thing I do is throw a BBQ. I invite everyone. Friends, Sawyer and his girl, neighbors, even the mail guy. He's cool, always says what up. I make it loud, music going, food everywhere, people laughing. My dad comes out on the porch, sees me, just stands there. My mom follows, arms crossed, tries to wave me over, but I just go back to flipping burgers. June texts me, says, "Are you really doing this right now?" I say, "You're welcome to come over." She says, "I can't." I say, "Your choice." Later that night, I see my parents sitting on their porch crying. Real tears. Mom's got her head in her hands. Dad's just staring at the ground. I don't go over. I don't say a word. Next morning, my phone starts blowing up. First, it's my dad. "Please, Barrett, we need you. Can you help us fix the accounts, the business, the bills, all of it?" Then my mom. "I'm sorry for how we treated you. We didn't mean it. You're our son. We need you." Then uncle again. Then even random numbers. I guess my dad's desperate enough to have people I barely know try to guilt trip me. I just let it all ring. I post a pic of the barbecue to my stories. Nothing special, just a normal day. Couple people comment, "Nice place, looks fun." My mom leaves a comment, "Can you call me?" I delete it. June comes by the next day. She doesn't knock, just stands on the sidewalk. I go out, she says, "They're falling apart, Barrett." I say, "What do you want from me?" She says, "I don't know, just, this sucks." I say, "You never stood up for me." She says, "I know." I say, "I'm not the bad guy here." She says, "I know. I'm sorry." I say, "Okay." She leaves. After that, the calls keep coming. Every night, sometimes both of them, sometimes just one. Voicemails like, "Please, we need you more than ever. We're sorry, just come back, help us." I don't answer. I don't owe them. My friends say I should just block them, but I kind of like letting them sweat. Let them see what happens when you treat people like trash for not being perfect. Let them sit on the porch and remember every time they told me I was a burden. It's not even about revenge anymore. Really, it's just, I finally get to breathe, knowing they can't control me, can't use me. They made their choice, now they get to live with it. That's it. No big, "I forgive you," no happy ending. They call every night, same as always. I sleep fine.